Hello, I'm James Savundra and welcome to the Boxing Insider. Each week we'll be taking you inside one of the biggest stories in the sport. And this week we're asking, will Tyson Fury ever fight Anthony Joshua? Well, who better to discuss the Gypsy King's upcoming plans than his UK promoter, Frank Warren?
Will the fight ever happen between AJ and Fury?
Well, I think if he gets beaten by Usyk again, I can't really see it. If I was Anthony Joshua, I would sort of regroup. I wouldn't do that rematch. You know, you do it down the road. I'd let the two guys get it on, and maybe he gets a shot at the winner at Tyson. You know, I think that's what I would do if I was in his position, because I think Usyk's got his number every day of the week. I mean, forget about Usyk. You know, how would AJ cope with Wilder? How would he have coped with that on a Saturday night? This guy attacking him full on, letting those bombs go. He would have overwhelmed him. Absolutely overwhelmed him. You know, if Usyk could have done what he did, can you imagine what Wilder would have done with him?
And do you feel like that fight, if it was to take place, it would have to have all the belts on the line? The undisputed fight, which we thought we would have had this year. I
think the Brits have come out for it. I really do. I think they'll come out for it. And look, you know, boxing, sport's about opinions, isn't it? You know, it's about... We always, you know, this one will beat that one, this footballer's better than this guy, and so forth. It's all opinions. And there are some people out there who probably still think that AJ will beat Tyson Fury. If it took place, I think people would still buy into it. But for me, there's only one winner there all day long.
So where do we stand with Anthony Joshua? Does he have to beat Alexander Usyk to set up this fight with Tyson Fury? When and where does that fight take place? Well, the man with all the answers is TalkSport's Adi Oladipo.
Let's get straight to it. The first question we want to know is, when is Anthony Joshua going to take on Alexander Usyk in that rematch?
Yeah, look, first, what we know is that they have exercised the rematch clause. There will be a second fight between the two. A lot of people said maybe AJ should not do that and swerve and go elsewhere. But look, you've lost your world titles. You've got to try and get them back. That's just how it works. With AJ being what he is commercially and a proud champion, he's going to want to get his belts back. Eddie Hearn has spoken about this and said, look, the fight's likely to happen in March or April next year. So we haven't got to wait too long, right? The boxing calendar right now has given us good fights, and I think that's one to look forward to, spring of next year.
And on AJ, does he need to beat Alexander Usyk in this rematch for us to have any chance of seeing this massive fight against Tyson Fury?
Yeah, it probably does. I mean, sometimes you think, okay, if he doesn't, then is there a way to kind of build himself back up and, you know, maybe have a fight against the likes of a Joe Joyce or a Hrgovic or a Dillian White, and then everyone's like, okay, no, AJ's back. I don't know, the British public will believe it. I think he needs to get his belts back. He needs to do it in really good fashion. And then we start talking about it. Boxing, as much as there is a big hardcore fan base, a lot of it is a casual fan base. And the casual fan base don't understand who Alexander Usyk is. They've just seen AJ lose to a smaller man. AJ needs to beat this man, and then we can start the sell of Fury AJ again.
And could you see that fight happening next year if AJ gets past Usyk, and if Tyson Fury potentially gets past Dillian White, which could be a fight we see early next year as well?
Yeah, I think we can. I think look, obviously Dillian White's got to get past Otto Wallin, which is no joke, right? Otto Wallin, who caused Tyson Fury so much problems, nearly 2 years ago. It's not an easy fight for Dillian White, but I think Dillian White will get through it. And then I think Tyson Fury will beat Dillian White. I mean, as much as it's a competitive fight, it's a fun fight. Tyson Fury right now is levels above any heavyweight, particularly Dillian White. And if AJ can get past Usyk, again, fight potentially in March or April, we are looking at, and I feel like I'm repeating myself, but we are looking at a fight potentially, Fury versus AJ, maybe the winter of 2022.
So we know what Anthony Joshua needs to do to get the fight with Tyson Fury. But as for the Gypsy King, will he stay active in the meantime?
Been in constant training all throughout the COVID situation with the arbitration, then the problem when he caught COVID, then his newborn daughter, she was in ICU and she came out, went back in. So all that's been going on, and I think he needs a break from it and spend some quality time with his family, his new baby and his other children. And, just get his batteries recharged and then make a decision as to what he wants to do.
And in terms of what he wants to do next, do you think Dillian White is the most likely next opponent if he's to get past Otto Wallin at the end of this month?
Well, look, I mean, both that is a possibility, and it's up to the WBC as to what they decide to do, because they're going to have to order a mandatory, but it's when it will take place. So I have no idea yet what's going to happen there. But, whatever it is and whatever they say and what comes through, we'll look at the option.
Money is key to making these mega fights, but will that scupper any chance of this taking place in the UK? I've been speaking to TalkSport's Gareth A. Davis.
Just weighing up the money and where this fight would take place, can you compare what the fighters would earn if it took place in the UK, which is what a lot of people want to see, compared to the likes of the Middle East or in America or potentially even somewhere like Africa?
Yeah, I mean, the big money was, of course, James, because of the Middle East consortium, Saudi Arabia, and, who were putting up an enormous amount of money. And we believe the guys would have earned 60 million plus for the first contest. And, I think it was 100 million over 2 fights. Wembley, if they both fight, and the numbers in the UK, I think they'd earn 40 million. I think the fight now, since Joshua lost to Usyk, is worth a little less. But I think if they both win, I think there'll still be some interest from the Middle East. But I think there's going to be a massive groundswell if they both win their next fights for people to push to have that at Wembley next summer. And even if either of the men lose, I think we may well still see at some point, but maybe at a time that we don't want to see it, not in their prime, we'll still see Fury and Joshua at some point, because even if they both lose, I think that still sells out Wembley Stadium.
So will we ever see this fight between Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua? Well, after speaking to Adi Oladipo and Frank Warren, I'm certainly feeling slightly more positive. However, after hearing those numbers from Gareth A. Davis, I'm not so sure this is a fight that will happen in the UK. Much seems to rest on whether Anthony Joshua can successfully win back his belts against Alexander Usyk in a fight which we think will take place in March. There's also the possibility that Tyson Fury has a mandatory defence against the Brit Dillian Whyte in a fight that could take place in the spring. If both AJ and the Gypsy King come through those tests successfully, then this mega fight could take place towards the back end of next year. Don't forget to check out all our interviews in full and leave a comment below and let us know what you think of Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury. And make sure you like and subscribe so that you never miss an episode of The Boxing Insider.